Hello and welcome to the Pickup WNBA podcast. I'm your host, Cathryn Naiker.
And I'm your other host, Freddie Rivas. What's up?
And this is episode 99, baby.
99, baby. We made it. Hey, follow us on everything. We are at the Pickup Podcast, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Subscribe, like, help us out. We've been getting a lot of love recently and really, really appreciate it. Cathryn, we got a lot to talk about.
We do. And first of all, I want to thank you and Karina for filling in for me last week. Much, much appreciated. Yeah, we're recording this on Sunday night at 9 p.m. So the Minnesota Lynx Connecticut Sun game is happening as we're recording this. So we're not going to be able to recap the end of the game, but we'll comment on the game as much as we can. It's 35-32 Connecticut right now. Or sorry, Minnesota right now. 35-32 Minnesota. It's been a close game throughout.
Yeah, it seems pretty tight. I wish, we got to record. I wish we were like all the way locked in. I was for the first game. And I should say, Cathryn, I did let our listeners know that you were away, getting taken care of medically. So
yeah,
tell everyone you're okay.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I didn't know what you told everyone or didn't. Yeah, I had a pretty major surgery about 10 days ago. It was planned. It wasn't like an emergency thing or anything like that. And planned in that when in Canada, like when they say you can have surgery now, you just kind of have to do it. That's sort of like the free healthcare thing of it. Like I was on a wait list for it was supposed to be 2 years, they told me. And then I was on this wait list for a bit over a year. And then I got a call saying there was a cancellation, and then I took it. So I didn't actively plan a surgery during WNBA playoff time.
Yeah.
That's how it worked out. And yeah, I mean, it's been a little rough with the healing and all of that, but things are making progress. And I'm happy to be back.
I'm happy you're back, and I'm happy that you've jumped on the cancellation. That's a big part of Canadian healthcare. You got to get in there.
Oh yeah, I'm lucky I even picked up the call, because usually if it's a number I don't recognize, I don't answer it. But for some reason I was compelled to answer in this moment, and I was like, "Oh my god, I almost missed that call." Which is pretty wild.
Yeah, I always have to make sure my messages are clear so that when they leave a message,
oh, you can see it?
Yes, because I don't know about you, I get a lot of spam.
I get tons
and
of
a lot of spam. They leave messages now. It's very frustrating.
Yeah, I get a lot of spam messages for sure. And then it's funny when it like the spam message, like it's in a different language, but it's still trying to make it English. Yeah. And then it really doesn't make any sense. Anyway.
It's fucked up.
Yeah, let's talk about round 1 rematch of the finals. Woo! Right? The Liberty versus the Aces. And the Liberty took that game. I think it was 87-77.
That's right.
Yeah. And the Liberty really had control of this game, I feel, throughout the entire game. They jumped on the Aces early. They made a first quarter comeback, I believe, even. Like, the Aces were on it. But we've mentioned this before on this podcast, Freddie. I'm curious to know if you still feel this way, that there's just been something about the Liberty this season and the way they've carried themselves all season long, where they have just felt like champions. And I feel like they played that way today. Like, I kind of felt like the Liberty were almost playing like they were the ones defending a championship more than the Aces. Please don't get mad. I feel like people are going to get mad at me for saying that. I think the Aces will come back. They're going to, but I picked the Liberty to win this series. I picked them to win it all, actually. But yeah, man, they just... some of the passes were just some of the best passes I feel like I've seen in a game. And they were just so in sync. All the chemistry issues they had last year are gone, and I just feel like they're really in control right now.
Yeah, I think you covered it, and obviously the Aces are the defending champions, but the Liberty have looked like the best team in the league all year, and after watching this game, I don't think that anyone's mind should be changed. Obviously, you can't count out the champs, you can't count out Asia
Hmm.
Wilson, but the Liberty, there's just it's interesting you mentioned the passing, because I feel like the passing is always championship teams always have that buzz. It's like there's a willingness to share the ball. There's joy in the way that they pass. And in this game in particular, there a lot of people contributed, but the big three showed up.
Hmm.
So you got 34 from Stewie, John Quell had 13 and 12, and Sabrina, 21, 4 and 5. So just like a pretty massive all around game, and everyone had assist numbers. There was I'm just looking at it now, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 6 players had 2 or more assists, which I mean, yeah, that's like the ball is moving.
Hmm.
I think oddly enough, Kelsey Plum said it before the game in the pregame interview, but she was talking about making the hockey assist,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of people know what that is, but just in case you don't, it's the assist before the assist, and you see it on good teams a lot, which they obviously don't count as an assist in the WNBA or basketball, but yeah, the hockey assist is real.
Yeah, that's been an on and off conversation for a long time. Like, should there be like a hockey assist stat? And in this, now that we have so many advanced analytics, like, why wouldn't that be a stat? It's kind of,
It's
you know,
certainly it's definitely a stat that teams keep. Like
yeah,
I'm
like we, the
absolutely
general
sure of it.
public, don't
Yeah,
have it in like the general, what's it called? The stat line, the stat line, I guess.
the box score.
Box score. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah,
Thank you. I've been on drugs for 10 days.
yeah, but you're killing it, and okay, just to like, because I think another thing you touched on, which everyone listening has got to be thinking and wondering, and it's definitely what I'm wondering as well, is the aces, right? So like let's just like take a step back for a second. Like Liberty beat the game, or they beat the Dream in game one. Me and Karina were talking about this, and it was sort of
Mm,
like, what's the Dream's path? Like, how could they do this? And it's like basically like a thought exercise, and we're doing some mental gymnastics to think about how maybe potentially the
yeah,
Dream
and
could win.
shout out to the Dream, because that game too
It was great.
was probably more entertaining than most people expected it to be. Like,
It was,
they
yeah,
really came out, they had a phenomenal game plan, they executed it, they came up short, but it was like, wow, like the Dream are here, and I hope they do what they can to make more noise next year, because that was really fun to watch.
yeah,
Just
big
as an
time.
aside, yeah.
Yeah, and it's true. And I think my larger point with the shout out to the Dream. But my larger point with the Aces is you don't have to imagine a path. It's right there.
No.
Asia Wilson has like she had 21, 6 and 5, 2 blocks, like great game, but she can go bigger. Jackie Young was good. Kelsey Plum had an amazing game. Chelsea Gray was 4, 3 and 1. Right. So that's not gonna that's not gonna happen again.
Yeah.
The Aces are stacked. Yeah, I think a lot of people are talking about how they're missing size up front, and Kia Stokes, I guess, like isn't really giving them what they need, but that's like they are still so good, and their defense. There was points in that game. There was a couple moments where they got it to, I think, 8 or 6 points in the third and fourth, where you could see that the Liberty weren't rattled, but that the Aces are just like a legit contender. Like, in a world where the Aces beat the Liberty, right, which is not a crazy world, I don't think it's a stretch to say that they could win a championship still. you know.
No, not at all. By the way, 42-38 Connecticut,
Wow.
halftime. Halftime.
Woo!
The lead in this game keeps going back and forth, and it's been mad tight the whole time.
Yeah, the
But
first round
anyway,
was like, obviously no games went to 3. This semis are like, I
yo,
think these
both could go to 5.
yes.
Both could go to 5. Yeah, I
Um
agree. Yeah, sorry, going back to the Liberty, like I agree with everything you're saying. And I remember last year talking about the size difference and the size advantage that the Liberty has, especially with John Cole Jones, and that how that could be a real difference maker for them. But that last year didn't really pan out. And I feel like these two teams know each other so well. They know what they need to do to beat the other team. And I think like the Liberty today just, I don't mean to undermine their effort, but they just had a really great night, where
mhm.
like everything was just like I don't have the stats in front of me, but I think their shooting percentage in the first half was like over 60%. I remember them saying that on the broadcast and stuff like that, where I feel like, you get into a hole early. It's just classic that. I feel like the Aces in game 2 are going to come out so strong, right? Like Kelsey Plum, even during the game, said they felt like their feet were in mud. And that's not typical of this team. I don't what I'm saying is I don't think there's anything strategically new they're going to try and do, because
Mhm.
they just know each other too well. It's just about execution at this point.
So the Aces, but I'm just looking at the box score now. They shot 50% on the game. Or
The Aces.
sorry, the Liberty shot 50%.
Yeah,
Aces
like
shot 43.
yeah. So
So
I mean that's a
50% is too high. Like the Aces
yeah,
got
that's
to
a
get,
really
you
good
know.
shooting percentage. That's what I mean. Like they just had a really good game.
Well, and Stewie in particular, 12 of 19 is like you got to figure out a way for her
Whew.
to like, just it's not the difference isn't that extreme. Like 12 for
No.
19, can you turn that into 10 for 19, 9 for 19? Like you just got
That's
to,
the goal. Yeah.
right? Um
But they were dancing today, man. The Liberty were just dancing. You know
they're
what I mean?
dancing. They're dancing.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, I want to say that's a fun expression for a team that's like vibing.
Right?
They're just dancing.
Thank you. Yeah, that's how I felt.
It's good shit.
Um the Lynx and the Sun. I mean, we're in the midst of this game right now, but what are your predictions for this series, Freddie? Where do you think this one's gonna go?
I have no idea. I think the Lynx are very much for real and they're awesome. And Collier is like the legit second best player in the, I mean, I don't know if, Stewie is kind of sort of seems like she was saving it. But, Collier
Yeah, I
deserves,
agree.
yeah, like she deserves to be the, defensive player of the year. Congratulations, by the way. And like, I think she
Mhm.
also, like everything about her season this year is earned and real, and Cheryl Reeve and like everything is Bridget Carlton, like they have just had a massive year, and they're not the Lynx of last year where it was kind of like hopefully we have a good playoff showing and we can build. They played well enough to think that they should win a championship. Like
Yeah.
that's what's awesome. All 4 of these teams, like they're all the favorites. These are the 4 contenders. I think maybe some people had the Storm as like an outside contender, but like, really it was these 4 teams. And um, but I don't know, there's something I always lean veteran. And
Yeah.
there's something about watching the Sun that makes me think that they're going to win the series. And I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I just have a like I want the Lynx to win. I think they can, but there's something about the Sun and the way that they play is just so tough, and they've been so good for so long. And Alyssa Thomas is a winner, and I don't know.
Yeah,
I would say yeah, Sun in 5.
I agree. I feel like it's the classic, like the Suns have been knocking on that door for a while now, where like this iteration of the Minnesota Lynx are new,
Mhm.
right? Like this version, the post Sylvia Fowles kind of era,
Yeah.
they as a group are new. And I feel like at first I really did have Minnesota going to the finals, and it's very conceivable that they can. But you're right, there is something about this Connecticut Sun team where like this series and that team can be the one team that like punches above their weight in terms of the standings. Because everything right now has just been like the favorites moved on. I feel like they're the one team that can really be that. I shouldn't say that because obviously, hello, we have the Aces here, and the
Mhm.
Aces could easily come back.
But the
But
Aces, they're in their own category because they're trying to three-peat, and Chelsea
yeah,
Gray was injured. Like they're just their own thing, kind of.
thank you. Yeah, I agree. But yeah, there's something about the Sun where like that could be a real possibility. But I originally picked the Lynx, so maybe I'll just stick with that just for the sake of it, and you and I can be a little different. But
Yeah.
that's how close this is. That really is how close this is.
Yeah, and I think also, I mean, like there's a lot of awards coming out. Six, or I always want to say six man because of NBA, but 6 woman bench player. DJ Carrington, shout out DJ Carrington, and Mabry. That addition was so big. Like Mabry, right now she's rocking a 3 for 6
Wait,
from the.
Dejanay Carrington. I thought she. Wait, is that who you meant? DJ Carrington?
Yeah, who did I say?
Is that who? Is that Dejanay?
Yeah, DJ Carrington was the 6.
Oh, and most improved.
Oh, I might be
She
wrong.
won
I'm
most
sorry.
improved.
She's most improved. My bad. Thanks for the
Okay,
correction.
that's okay. I blame the drugs.
You blame the drugs
I'm
for
blaming
my
the drugs
mistake?
when I'm right and when I'm wrong. It's just about the
Yeah,
drugs
you know
right
what?
now.
I'm on the same shit Cathryn's on, so we good. Um, but whatever. Carrington. Oh, I think I just saw Carrington. No, Carrington's was all first team defense. So maybe I just.
Yes,
Um,
there it is.
but yeah. But anyhow, and Mabry as well. Like it's just such a massive addition. Like the Sun are
Huge.
are are, are clicking. So
Yeah, I
yeah.
gave you credit for that on Twitter, Freddie, because back in I think it was August, it was like right after the Olympic break when everyone was talking about Gabby Williams joining the Storm, and you were like, "Hey, like Marina Mabry joining the Sun is a really big deal." And you're absolutely spot on about that, and she's been absolutely like a major X factor for that team.
Yeah, like
She's in the starting lineup now.
she is. Yeah, I think she's in for who was starting before. Was it Nelson Adota? Um,
Um, I apologize. I'm blanking on her name, but she got injured the last game that they had.
Ty Harris.
Yes, there it
Yes.
is. Yeah, Ty Harris.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, all that to say, this series is so stacked. We're excited uh to talk about it more next week, and I think also there's a good chance that it won't be over because I think it will be going to 5.
Ooh,
Slash hope.
baby. That would be wild. I kind of hope both of these go to 5. I feel like they really
Yes.
deserve it.
Yeah.
Okay. We want to touch a little bit on the first round and how things sort of wrapped up towards the end. We talked a little bit about the dream. We've got the Storm and we've got the Phoenix Mercury and the whole like, did Diana Taurasi play her last game or not? I don't know if you want to touch on that. I have some thoughts on that.
That's like of the 4 teams, I feel like, reflecting on the 4 teams, like there's interesting angles for all of them, but I do think the Mercury have just the most question marks. There's a lot of talent on that team, and I think, yeah, like does the GOAT retire? I don't know if there's a bigger like off-season question. And the way that it was sort of all built up, like this, like, yeah, I think I forget if it was you or Karina who said sort of like this like soft launch retiring was like it's been weird to watch because it's kind of like what's going on, is it happening? And she's still like good, so it doesn't
Oh,
really
very good.
seem like it should be the end, but also like age wise it's like, okay, like we can't make you play forever.
Hmm.
Yeah, what's your thoughts?
Well, my first thought during that last Minnesota game, which by the way, when Nafisa Collier was like, let's end her career on Wednesday, that was absolutely like the best thing ever. I really enjoyed that. And I bet Diana really enjoyed it too, you know, because it's a similar competitive spirit. But
Yeah.
my first thought when that game started, I thought, oh, Sue Bird isn't here. If this was Diana Taurasi's last game, Sue Bird would be here.
Very observant. I agree. I
You know
agree.
what I mean? Yeah, I just feel like there's no way Sue Bird is gonna let Taurasi play her last game and she's not there to witness it. So a part of me thinks it isn't. Although the feels were very much there. And you know, shout out to the Minnesota fans because they were really awesome during this game because they were obviously like rooting for their team, but they were also like kind of cheering for Diana and saying like one more year and like for an away team to do that, I just think like that's really cool. And you can tell that fan base has been around for a long time, unlike some other fan bases, but we'll get into that.
Mhm.
And, you know, like they know their stuff. And like, I think it was really cool that they did that. But to me, based on everything we know about Diana Taurasi and like who she is and what she's meant to this game, it just feels weird for her to not have a farewell kind of season. So I feel like I see that for her, but at the same time, it could end up being like, you know, she's not nursing an injury like Candace Parker was at the end of her career. But like Candace Parker, like kind of tried to go to training camp and then was like, you know what? I really don't have this in me anymore. And it's like, I wonder if we're going to have like that sort of thing with Tarasi. But my heart, I feel like we're going to have a farewell season with her.
I think so too. I think that yeah, I think you covered it, and that that's also something Karina said too. Like she's not nursing this injury. Like she does seem like she's the type of player who, like, if she can go,
She's going to go.
she's gonna go. She's gonna play. And but I mean, it is she's an interesting player because I do feel like Fowles didn't make that much of a meal of it. Obviously, Bird did like a doc,
Yeah.
and Candace was injured, but I could see Diana doing that thing where she's just like, and I've played my last game and you didn't know. Like I
Mhm.
could see her doing that,
Like
but
being a little more Tim Duncan about it.
yeah. Or if she goes Mamba, she'll make an announcement about it and do a doc about it because that's what he did.
Yeah.
So
Did he do a documentary?
I think he did. I have not seen it. I
Oh,
don't know if it's
add
ever
it add it to the list of
add it
documentaries we
to the
need to
list.
watch.
I don't think it's ever been released, to be honest.
Oh, maybe
But
not.
yeah, it was you know, yeah. But I remember there being like tons of camera crews at like all of his last games
That makes sense.
because of it.
I went to the Kobe farewell tour. Did you know this about me?
I didn't know that.
I went to Detroit because it was cheaper to see him in Detroit than it was to see him here in Toronto by like a lot.
Wow.
Isn't that wild?
I very sadly and very ironically saw his last major public appearance. I happened to be in LA and we went to
No
a
way.
Laker game versus the Mavericks, and
Oh, and he
he
was there with Gigi.
yeah, so that picture that is like, everywhere that I was there. I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh, wow, Kobe's here, his daughter."
I
And
remember because they were meeting like Luca that day,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that was like a whole thing.
it was a whole thing. Yeah,
Mm. All
that was
right.
early January 2020.
God. All right. Well, that could be a whole off season thing
It could. That's
for
like
us.
a before times
Truly,
pod.
that'll be 5 years in January.
Wow,
Isn't that insane?
that's nuts.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like five at all. Um,
Feels like a lifetime.
but yeah, sorry, getting back to this. I feel like yeah, the mercury of a lot of off-season questions. I feel like the Storm, I still believe in this team and I think they just need another year together. And I think like they'll be really strong next season. I don't know if they'll be championship contender level next season as constructed, but I think they'll be really strong. Like they only had so much time with Gabby Williams. We don't know what her situation will be for next season, but I mean, yeah, I still think that core is still strong. I hope they stay together. I feel like where else are they going to go? You
Yeah.
know, Jewel Lloyd really struggled this series for reasons unknown. I think she just had a bit of a slump. And I think like if Jewel Lloyd kind of, gets her groove back, so to speak, then yeah, I think they can be a lot stronger because I mean both those games against the Aces were close. And the fact that they only scored 2 points in a fourth quarter is absolutely wild. So I feel like the potential is there and they just need to like, build up that chemistry with each other for another season.
Yeah, and just doing some free agent watching. NECA is a UFA, and so is Sammy Whitcomb. Obviously, so is Gabby Williams. So I think
Mm,
it kind of starts with like,
huge.
is NECA coming back? And I feel like I would assume she is.
Yo,
But
if another team picked her up, that could be a mad game changer in the
yeah,
league.
and she's sort of like at the end of like year 13. So it's like, does she? But yeah, I think the Storm are good enough to that they're not in a situation where that like people are going to start leaving them.
Wait, is NECA is she a small forward or a two guard?
She is a small forward.
You know who I think would be amazing to pick her up if she's like truly, truly available, who really should be looking out for her? Dallas.
That'd be a
Dallas,
huge pickup.
they need more, no disrespect, but they need more talent around Arike Gumbawale and Satu Sabali. Like I just feel like if they could figure out a way to turn that into a big three, woo,
That'd be huge.
that's
Yeah.
exciting. That's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have a lot of time in the offseason, but I feel like Dallas is weird. They're a weird season, and I'm like, could they be the
So
type of
weird.
team where that's just like a blip and they're like good again?
Yeah, I mean they had injuries to start off the season, similar to the Dream, even though they didn't start the season with injuries. But it's like with a 40-game season, you just don't have enough time to really recover from stuff like that. And I feel like that was the case for them. But even when Satu Sabali came back, I just felt like there was like a lack of rhythm there.
Hmm.
But anyways, yeah, you're right. We will have more time to talk about that. We should talk about the Fever.
Yeah, and I mean, just before we go to the Fever, I don't got
Mm.
much on the Dream. Ryan Howard was injured for a bunch of the year. I feel like they're fine. They're young. It's all good.
I
Um,
agree, and I think Tina Charles on that team is, a really good veteran presence for them. And I feel like that's sort of like the secret sauce with a young team is like you have, a veteran who's like been there, done that, but is still like really effective. And I feel like that addition was really good for them
mhm.
this season. I will say that. I hope they keep her. And yeah, I agree. They're young and they'll be fine.
Yeah, Fever. What's your? I mean, I guess I'll say this: like the biggest sort of like domino type thing is like, are they going to core Kelsey Mitchell? Do they feel like she's a flight risk? Because I think she's a huge. She's become a huge part of that team.
A
Um,
flight risk.
like like, is she gonna leave?
Oh, okay.
Is she gonna leave to
Oh,
play
all
elsewhere?
right. I
Yeah.
blame the
So,
drugs.
uh, yeah. But yeah, listen, keep blaming those drugs. I'm into it. But obviously, the Fever, post like Caitlin said it well in her post game interview where she was just talking about how awesome they were after the Olympics, and they got better and better and better, and they had that really rough start, and they ran into an amazing Connecticut team. Like I feel like if you're a Fever fan, it's like just things are just like majorly on the ups, obviously, and
Beyond. I've never seen such a 180 in my life
yeah.
with a team, truly ever. I don't think, in all the years I've watched both WNBA and NBA basketball, I don't think I've ever seen a 180. like what the Fever have experienced.
Yeah, like
Oh,
from being the team that we just mercilessly make fun of to be like, oh yeah, they're like building a dynasty. It's like holy shit.
yeah, they probably had like 5 season ticket holders a year ago. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, anyway, I think the Fever as a team, I think they should keep Kelsey Mitchell. And also, if you're Kelsey Mitchell, why would you leave? You know what I mean? Like, you're in an amazing situation, you know, with Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston, and you're gonna be poised to make so much more money. Like, that's the thing. Once the new CBA around this time next year, I believe, gets negotiated, you'll want to renegotiate that. So maybe don't sign a multi-year deal,
Mm-hmm.
sign a 1-year deal, stay, see how much more money this team is making now, and then renegotiate again. That's what I would do personally. Now, I know sometimes players like to have long-term contracts because there's always, you know, a risk of injury. So there's that part. But I just feel like if they should keep her, and I just don't see why she would leave because it's arguably the best situation in the league.
That's a great
Arguably.
that's a great point though. I think that with the new bargaining agreement, I wonder if like agents and players are really sort of like in a holding pattern of sorts and not wanting to like ink too big of a deal because they're waiting for this like they're waiting for
Massive
yeah,
CBA.
massive CBA. So
Yeah, I don't know, maybe in the off season we'll see more of that also, but yeah, I mean, I just feel like the Fever, you know, even in their losses against the Sun, looked really good, and it's their first time being there collectively, and they're also really young, and, you know, they've made greater strides than the Dream in my humble opinion. Um, so I feel like they should do what they can to keep it together. I don't think they need to change much. I think, you know, they just need another year together. And they also just need another year of being in the league
mhm.
and, you know, trying to navigate the noise that surrounds them.
Yeah. And they also got that classic like, you know, you got rookied.
Oh,
You,
1000%.
you went to the playoffs and you played a team like full of vets and that team was like this
Cute.
is yeah, like exactly like this basketball is different and we're going to show you how and by the time you realize like what you did wrong, your season will be over.
Mhm. Mhm. I yeah, they did get rookied. It's a great way to put it. I remember before this series started, I was talking about, you know, if these teams face each other, the Fever are going to give a spotlight to the Connecticut Sun that I feel is very well deserved because I bet a lot of casual Caitlin Clark fans don't know the Connecticut Sun or how good they are and, you know, how amazing Alyssa Thomas is, etc. And it'll give them a chance to get to know them. But Freddie, I'm going to use this as a segue. You know, I was naive in that I thought that would turn into a good thing for the Connecticut Sun. And maybe a few, you know, there's a few good people out there, good fans, people are becoming greater fans of the game and they did catch on and they did learn in like really positive ways, but obviously in the last week we, you know, we've heard the Sun speak out against, you know, a lot of the harassment that they've been facing in light of Caitlin Clark or facing against her and how these people are racist and other discriminatory things. And, you know, the league released a statement. Caitlin Clark made a statement. A lot of people are like, this should have happened sooner.
Mhm.
You know, a lot of different things happening around that. Freddie, why don't you jump in? What are your thoughts on all of that?
Yeah, so many thoughts. You know, I think it's complex. It's really something we've been talking about all season, right? The
Mm-hmm.
casual fan, the new fan, the old head, that sort of thing. I think what's uncomplicated is racism and bigotry and you know, we were going to talk about it last week, but you know, it was me and Karina and There was so much like playoff stuff, but I
Mhm.
think that Engelbert's initial statement on the just to be clear what we're talking about, like I mean like anti-black, anti-queer, misogynistic like stuff and rhetoric, uh, like aimed at those that I feel like the kind of like new racist aspects of the Caitlin Clark fandom feel like opposed Clark. So like we're talking Kennedy Carter, Angel Reese, most
Yeah,
recently Carrington, anyone
yeah.
who's sort of like perceived to like be in the way or not like bending the knee to Caitlin, and like just like a lot of the rhetoric about like the league owing her or the league not being valid and you know until she came, and like just this sort of it's just something I've seen a lot of, but like there's an idea that that I totally agree with, and I forget the initial like author of this idea, so I apologize, but it's like it's the humbling of the it's the white woman humbling the black woman, um, that a lot of fans, uh, if you want to call them fans, but a lot uh, of these new people coming into the league, that's the vitriol that has surrounded a lot of these conversations and like what people have wanted. Yeah, I mean, there's so much there. I read a really good Eaton Thomas, former NBA player, Guardian article, just about all this and like who's accountable for what and like what do we do? What's the move here? Like how do we go forward? Like Caitlin has, repeatedly uh most recently she said, these are trolls, with the Carrington situation. She said, watch the play. It's totally fine. Angel Reese has also said that she doesn't feel like Caitlin Clark stands behind any of this bullshit. So, like, what does, yeah, what,
No, she doesn't. She doesn't.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to jump in, but yeah, there's a lot here.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I mean, I think it's sad that this is even a thing that exists in our world, but it does. I mean, this also happens a lot in Drag Race, if I may use a parallel here for a second. You think like RuPaul's Drag Race, there wouldn't be any racist fans or sexist fans there, and there are. And it's really weird. And a lot of the contestants on the show have spoken about like things that they've received from fans and how it affects them. And it's just like it's really weird to me, this phenomenon that exists, because you look at something like the WNBA, and it's like it's a majority black female league with many openly queer players. Why would this attract racist fans, right? Like this was kind of the question I started asking myself, because I feel like I don't want to say, I'm just going to say naive. Like I don't ever intend to be naive about these things, but sometimes they happen and I'm genuinely surprised and saddened that they're happening, right? So I started to ask myself like what would attract fans who are bigoted to something like this. And I thought to myself like they they're not fans, is what I concluded in that,
Hmm.
because I feel like they're trying to take up space and frankly push out, right? Like I'm basically hinting at supremacy here, because why else would you put all that energy and effort into something? And if other people have different theories around this, I'm very open to hearing your thoughts. Like, I'm not doing this to be like righteous about anything in any way, but I just feel like we should stop referring to those people as fans. That's kind of what I concluded out of all of this, is like we have to stop referring to those people as fans, because they're not fans. They're something else. And I think if we start to label it that way, then I think I, at least for me, it kind of helps, because it's like okay, these are the people who are real fans, who are actually supportive of this league, who genuinely just enjoy basketball. You know, maybe they're political and maybe they're not, but at least they enjoy basketball. And then there's these people who have a separate agenda. In my opinion, they have a separate agenda. And that needs to be acknowledged. And I don't think, you know, we need to be like catering to them and being like, hey, like, we're so happy to have new fans of the league, but blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, we're really happy to have new fans of the league. But if you're doing this, 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 and this, then we're not going to call you a fan. We're not going to refer to you as a fan because that's not what fans do. Right? Like, if you ever think of something you've ever been a fan of, a genuine fan of, you're not sending them hate.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I know this is quite a tangent, but I just really feel like we
No,
have
it's
to
true.
stop referring to these people as fans.
Yeah, and I think I think you're bang on, and I also feel like it's bigger than
Bigger than basketball, of course.
well, yeah. To your point though, it's like bigger than this idea of like bad fan, good fan, because I feel like you're bang on in that these aren't fans, and like a part of Etan's article here is talking about like how the media really like has this role here where like, obviously there's like the social media like just like nasty trolls and like people
Yeah,
think
the
like,
wild wild west of the
yeah,
internet. Yeah.
garbage shit. But he talks about I'm just gonna read this excerpt. So um uh he's talking about Jason Whitlock, who talks about a lot of like trash stuff. So like Jason Whitlock, a writer with a history of stirring up tension, and who has rarely wasted an opportunity to weaponize Clark, is a case in point. Earlier in the Sun Fever series, Connecticut's Dejanay Carrington inadvertently poked Clark in the face, leaving her with a black eye. Caitlin Clark, this is now in quotations, Caitlin Clark assaulted. The WNBA
Oh
should
my
suspend
god.
Dejanay Carrington. This is a media member, tweeted Whitlock. He followed it up by writing, Dejanay Carrington stabbed Caitlin Clark in the eye with a fingernail. It could have damaged the career of the WNBA's meal ticket and the biggest American women's sports star of all time. ESPN and the WNBA have yet to address this story. Carrington should be suspended. And then he goes on to say that, Whitlock, who is black, knows the danger of evoking the image of the delicate white flower in America. Lynchings of black men were common when mobs somehow believed a white woman was in danger. So this like damsel in distress sort of thing is like a really old and disgusting narrative in American history that I feel like a lot of people are like pouncing on in this moment. And this is part of the responsibility of Caitlin and also responsibility of the WNBA. Stewie spoke on it too. Stewie's like,
Mhm.
she's like, if it's me, my fans, no, you can't do that. Like, I have to like, and Stewie, obviously, we've talked about it a bunch, but like when Brittany Griner was like wrongfully detained, Stewie was that person
Every
who
day.
every day she tweeted.
Every
And,
day.
I think Caitlin's really, really young, and like it can't all be on her. Like, if people are using her name as a vehicle for hate, it can't be on her. But what Ethan Thomas points out, which is very true, when she does squash it, it gets squashed. So like when she does say stop, it does stop. So it's this thing where, and even Alyssa Thomas was sort of like, you got to control your fans. And it's like, I don't think it's fair to like, she can't fully control her, the people who are using her, like you say, like she can't control the media. She can't control people who aren't actually fans. But if there are any fans of hers that she can control, it is, it's like it comes with the territory. Like she does need to.
Yeah. I agree. And I feel like, you know, sometimes maybe I'm just projecting my own stuff right now, but sometimes I feel bad for Caitlyn because I just feel like that
Oh,
must be
I
really
definitely, yeah,
like
I
that's
feel bad
must be
for her.
really overwhelming,
It's
you
so
know?
overall, and it's so unfair. Like, and
It's
she's not like that,
totally.
you know?
Yeah, and she didn't like she didn't do anything
No,
to
not
create this. It just happened. And I feel like I feel like maybe I've said this before, but if I were an athlete, like I wouldn't have social media at all. Like I just wouldn't even have like an active account. Like you could hashtag me, you can talk about me, whatever. I wouldn't engage in it because I just think it's too much and it's too toxic and it's like why? You know what I mean? I'm already out there, so to speak, like in terms of like, you know, the amount of media coverage the league gets. But I just wouldn't have that. But then I also feel like if she doesn't want to engage with it online, and personally I wouldn't, then she can at least, you know, when she does speak to the media, say something. Like you said, when she does say something, it does get squashed, but it's also like, it's kind of exhausting because it's like, it felt like during the season, it was almost like weekly, like something new would come up. Like they just kept trying to find something new. So it's like, I don't know how you squash it to the point where it ends. Right, like I wish I knew, but I don't know how to do that. So I feel like that's sort of like the next phase of this is like, how do we actually get this to end?
Yeah, and that's why to me it's not just her. Like that's why I think like Engelbert, like, you know, like everyone has to do this together. They have
Yeah,
to sort of like
I
as a
agree.
league,
It's
you
not
know,
just her, it's the league. Yeah.
yeah, like that racist fan that got removed. It's like that kind of shit. You have to be on that.
The
And
league, the organization, like the Indiana Fever organization,
yeah.
like, yeah.
And also like take threats to players seriously, you know.
Mhm.
So if there's like racist rhetoric, make sure you like nip it in the butt and all that kind of shit.
Mhm. Um yeah, I think we can wrap that subject up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll
One of
we'll be back, unfortunately.
we will. Um, one other thing we wanted to talk about is the firing of Teresa Weatherspoon. 1 year with the Chicago Sky. Bit of a shocking firing. We also had Kurt, what's his name? Kurt from the Sparks.
Kurt Miller.
Kurt Miller fired, but that was like whatever. Nobody, you know, nobody's really batting an eyelash at that. But the Teresa Weatherspoon firing was surprising. Angel Reese tweeted that, like, you know, how much Teresa's meant to her this season and what a great coach she's been. And, you know, I just feel like it was really unexpected. I think she'll land on her feet somewhere. She's got a lot of goodwill. Just in the whole world of basketball. Sorry, end of the third quarter, it's 62-57, I think I saw for Minnesota. Is it going to flash back on the screen or are you going to go to commercial on me? Yeah, 62-57 Minnesota end of the third. Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, I just feel like, you know, there's a lot of rumblings about the Chicago Sky organization not being the greatest. You know, we've talked about their practice court being like a community center, different things like that. So I'm curious to see, you know, what their off season's going to be like. Who are they going to hire? I also think Nate, what was his name? Nate Tibbetts from the Mercury.
Yep.
He's gone. Like, there's no way. There's no way that guy's coaching another season with the Mercury. I don't think. I think he's gone.
Yeah, he's gonna get promoted to GM.
I just don't think he did a good job. I'm sorry. I really don't.
I mean, they definitely underperformed.
They are a veteran team that didn't commit to defense. Like, think about that. That's pretty bad.
It's pretty inexcusable.
Yeah, you can't just keep that. But
But
anyway,
the Sky need a good. They need some good press.
mm-hmm. And they really should have kept Teresa. Like, I'm like, why would you do that? She was a good coach.
I don't.
And as far as I'm concerned, they, you know, if it wasn't for, you know, the end of season injury to Angel Reese, they would have been in the playoffs. And in my opinion, they overachieved this season. Like, I expected them to be at the bottom of the league because they're a young team and they're completely brand new. So yeah, it very, very confusing
They also
firing.
lost Mabry mid-year. Yeah,
That's right.
they really,
But that's their own doing, which is also confusing.
yes. Top two confusing teams: Sky and Mercury, and Dallas. Sorry, Dallas is too.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to our badass player of the week. Who you got? Who you got?
Okay, I'm coming in with we mentioned her last week. She was sort of like, we did that dance where it was like we picked someone kind of like, it was a cutesy
Like a
pick, but
unanimous obvious, and then
yeah,
yeah.
but we didn't actually give it to her. But I am giving to Nafisa Collier 40. She averaged 40 points in the first round. The second highest average was Sabrina Ionescu with 24.7, 40 points. I always got to remind fans who might be NBA fans first, but these are 10-minute quarters. That's insane. So that's 10. That's 10 points a quarter. Just ridiculous. 5.5 rebounds, 4 assists, a block and a half, and just like blistering 3-point percentage, shooting 4 attempts a game, 2.5 threes, and just 64% from the field, just like out of control. And also, by the way, average in those two games, 39 minutes. So she sat for 1 minute.
Unreal.
Like absurd.
Yeah. Absolutely unreal. Yeah, she's really like, I mean, she has been this season the second MVP, really. Right? Like she's been the
Yes.
runner-up MVP
Yeah.
without question. I've got a cutesy pick this week. This is really more of a badass energy kind of
Yes.
pick as opposed to like hard stats.
That's
But
allowed.
but I'm going with Kelsey Plum. And I'm going with Kelsey Plum because she was jawing with Spike Lee today during the Aces Liberty game. And this, I feel, is the moment I've been waiting for. Spike Lee, what took you so long? Better late than never. Let's turn Kelsey Plum into the Reggie Miller of this league. I want it. We all want it. I feel like she's the perfect person for this role. There's another thing about Kelsey Plum that I really love about her game is like in a high pressure moment, this is something I've noticed about her. In a high pressure moment, she smiles. She smiles. Like if she's shooting free throws with like 1 minute left in a close fourth quarter game, she's smiling. And that is one of my favorite qualities in an athlete because she's enjoying and embracing the pressure. And I absolutely love that about her. And I feel like I want her and Spike Lee to go at it so hard. And I hope, praying that that continues. But from a basketball perspective, 18 points a game. She had 2 threes. How many assists? 3 assists. Just shy of 3 rebounds. A good stat line, but really it's the zest.
Yeah, big Plum energy.
Big Plum energy.
Plums
don't have zest, so I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, can you set? No, you can't zest the plum. But I thought about it for a second. I was like, if HelloFresh was if I did a HelloFresh and they were like zest this plum, I'd be like, can you? I'm stealing this from Ryan Rucco, but he was like, we need a plum cam. Because she is like that type. She's she's electric. Like she talk about like marketability and like that type of player. It's like if you're a new fan and you discover Kelsey Plum, you must be like, what the fuck? This is like the greatest person that's ever lived.
I got a bit of a Kelsey Plum look today with my bun and I'm wearing a black shirt.
Except Alice, your hair is simply not tight enough. If it's Kelsey,
no, it's not a tight enough.
Like kabam.
Yeah, that thing is real tight.
Yeah.
Like that bun is borderline receding hairline type.
It's glistening. Okay.
It also glistens. It's like jet black and it
Yeah.
glistens.
Yeah.
Where I have
Her,
highlights,
her
so
and
my hair is
Diana,
different shades of brown.
just that's a bun off. Like,
Oh yeah.
you
Shout out
know,
to the Twitter account Diana Taurasi's bun. Really,
that's a good one.
yeah. It's one of my, one of the better fan accounts. But we should just create Kelsey Plum's bun. It doesn't sound right at all.
I was gonna say that again.
That does not sound right at all.
Yeah, we should definitely
just to promote this podcast.
I'm in. Sold.
Really? But you know what? If you just read it, it'll make sense. It's really when you say it where you're like, whoa.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, Freddie, fun question time.
Yes, but I had a thought, then it went away and it came back. I wish I wrote this tweet down because I want to credit the person, but it was a great tweet, and it was this is how I know we've made it, and it was like the video of Spike Lee and Kelsey jawing at each other, and it was like, oh wow, this is like, it's a type of like level. Even Sabrina Ionescu was like, I'm a New Yorker now because I high five.
Oh yeah, and I had New York injected into my veins. That was so good.
And how cool is it for Kelsey to come along and be like, well, then I'm not New York, and start to like, it's
yeah.
Good shit.
Yeah. Absolutely love that. Okay. Freddie, time for your fun question. Take it away.
Here we go. Freddie's fun question. We love names around here, and we've talked a lot about the future Toronto WNBA name. Very fun WNBA Toronto account game they started playing, where they're doing a series of listing and describing rejected names.
Yeah. So just to add, they had a thing like a open call for people to send in suggestions for names. And I think it's based on those public suggestions that they've done a list of rejections, which is pretty funny.
It's pretty great. And they're starting with nature, which is near and dear to my heart. So,
as a category, yeah.
As a category, but like that doesn't mean that it's not going to be a nature name, but it means they're starting with, that's a whole category of type of name that have been rejected. So the rejected names are Wildfire, Flurry, Ice, and Twisters. So Toronto Wildfire, Toronto Flurry, Toronto Ice, Toronto Twisters. And my question to you, Cathryn, and to me as well, is out of these 4 rejected names, what name would you make a case for? Like
to bring back.
If you're like, no, wait a second, just bring this name back. Here's why. Here's the mascot. Here's the vibe.
This is really easy for me, and it's because the other names I think are really bad. Wildfires, that's bad.
Wildfires, we agree, bad.
Yeah, that's a bad name. Also, wildfires.
We don't have those here. Yeah,
we don't have those in Toronto, but also they are really bad for other places in the country and across the US as well.
Yes.
So that's a big deal. Flurry, I don't like because it's very vague. Like, I don't like how, like, it's like a flurry. Like, I don't know. Like, it kind of reminds me of like fever. Like, it's not really ideal, I don't think. And
I don't mind Flurry, but
okay, that's yours. And I don't like Twisters because we also are not known for tornadoes, and we don't really have tornadoes here. We have had tornadoes here, but they're very uncommon and they're quite small. And I don't think in the history of this city has there ever been like one to ever cause any sort of like major or even minor destruction. Really,
we've had some tornadoes in Barrie. Shout out Barrie.
Yes, shout out Barrie.
Some places nearby due to climate change, but it's like
we don't have Twisters, and they're also bad. It's like wildfires; they're bad.
It's no good. It's no good.
Anyway, so I'm going with Ice because to me, Ice is like, sure, it's cold here, but there's the whole ice in your veins thing, you know, and I don't know.
Icing someone, which is like actually a basketball play.
Yes, right? Like there's a lot of fun you can have with ice, even though it's the summertime when they play and there's absolutely no ice here at all. And it's actually quite hot here in the summers.
Yeah.
But if I were to make a case for any of those names to be back, it would be ice. Who's the mascot? I think you could have fun with an ice queen,
Oh, wonderful.
right? And that, you can have different interpretations of like who that is, but like, obviously somebody fun for kids, but just like, a queen-esque figure. They don't have to be like superhuman. Like they could almost be like a bluey type character, but they're ice queen.
I mean, I think that's a great idea.
Thank you.
Um,
Kathy, we're around. Kathy
so
Engelbert. We got ideas.
I want to say their cut for ice isn't good enough. They wrote the W plays in the summer, so it felt contradictory. Well,
No.
and they have a melting snowman. Pretty funny, but still,
Oh, the AI images they put on their post were really lame. I didn't like
yeah.
any of them.
So let me say this though. Ice, I agree with you. That's like my favorite. Flurry, I'm like, okay, I get the vagueness. Like wildfire, I hate. My case I'm gonna make is for Twisters.
Oh my
And
god.
here's why. It's so bad and it's so dumb that I think it could tread this weird line of being a like silly ass catchy name that just is like, could you imagine like, first of all, so it's like in-game ops, it's like, oh, a Twister's coming, and you have a bunch of like wind sound effects or whatever. You have the movie Twister, right, which is like an insane of its time movie that you could draw on for stuff. Like, I just, nothing about it makes sense, and it would be so bad that it could work somehow. And I feel like the mascot is like, like Timmy Tornado or whatever, and it's like,
Timmy
but
Tornado.
like, I don't know, man. Like, it's like my only case is that
Also a male mascot.
yeah, let's go Tammy Tornado. My bad.
Timmy Tornado.
But it's so bad it could be good. That's it. Like, it's
Here's
not
the thing. It's so bad it could be good for like us.
yes, but listen,
Because
I
we can have fun with stuff like that, but most people would just be confused.
I will always bring up the Raptors as a thing that it's like has no business being good, but is. And sometimes sports names can do that. Like sometimes you
Yeah,
can.
I'm gonna contradict you slightly, just slightly, in that I agree it was bad. But the reason why it worked is because it appealed to kids.
Yeah, they did the Barney thing, and
You
how do
know
you
what I
make a
mean? Like
tornado
that's
appeal to
like
kids? I'm not sure.
yeah, like that's kind of, and also too, it was like there was Jurassic Park, and then there was like a lot of like dinosaur stuff within like pop culture happening at that time. So I feel like that's kind of why it worked, because we grew up on it, and then now like we're passing it down to our kids and blah blah blah. So I think like it was bad, but I feel like there was a vision there, and it's weirdly smart, the Raptor
Yeah,
name.
and Twister was popular a solid 30 years ago. So you're not.
Also a popular movie in the 90s.
Yes.
Also takes place in like Oklahoma and Kansas or something.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
no
maybe
good.
Kansas. Anyway, not here. Yeah. Really funny rejected names.
Yeah, really funny rejected names. I'm very into it.
Yeah. Anyway, we should probably wrap it up there.
Yep.
Another slightly long one, but hey, it's the playoffs, right?
Yeah, we're doing it. Oh my God, Twisters! There's a new Twisters coming out.
Yeah, or I think it came out and it
Oh,
bombed.
okay, never mind. That makes
That's
sense that it would bomb. But yeah,
it looked terrible. It looked
long
really
one.
bad.
It was worth it. I'll say it again. Follow us on all socials at the Pickup Podcast, YouTube, Insta, Twitter.
Yes. And shout out to Karina for continuing to help us with our socials right now.
Karina,
Huge for
thank
us.
you. And to everyone who reaches out to us, we appreciate you. So thank you.
Yes, thanks everyone. And it's a commercial break right now, but it's the fourth quarter. I think we're 5 minutes in, and I think Minnesota's up by like 1.
Woo!
So juicy ending here. What we're gonna go watch, and then we'll talk about this series more next week. So thanks everyone. Chat with you later.
Peace out.
Bye.
Bye.